Hi everyone, let's talk about the UK Games Expo. Rachel and I went there for almost 2 days, not entirely 2 days, over the weekend. We couldn't make the full thing this year. It's a shame, isn't it? And we played some games, not as many as we hoped, of course. It's always the way, isn't it? But I'm going to tell you about the games that we did play and, yeah, our initial impressions of them. So, first up, we played Letter Jam from CGE, taught by the wonderful Paul Grogan. And this is a cooperative word game that's not like anything else that I think I've played. It's very weird, but in a very good way. You have a huge deck of cards that are just letters, and some letters are excluded from the game, like Z, like funny letters like that. Who needs Z? And you get dealt some cards, and you decide how difficult you want to make the game. The longer the word you choose, the harder it's going to be. But you can choose, like, we were offered, do you want to do 4-letter words or 5-letter words? We chose 5-letter words because we wanted it to be challenging. So you get dealt a big handful of cards, and you need to make a 5-letter word out of those cards for the player on your right. And that's going to be the word they need to guess. So we all do that. Everyone ends up with a word, and they don't know what it is. They shuffle up the letters as well. So it's going to be a little harder. You're not just going to know the first few letters and guess the rest of the word. So we each have all of our letters down, apart from the first letter that gets put on a little stand and put face up. Everyone else can see your letter, but not you. And if you're playing with fewer than 6 players, you have a couple of dummy letters as well. So there's always 6 letters around, 5 that each player can see. And then, between us, we need to come up with clues using these letters that are out here, and we can reuse letters as many times as we want. There is a wild card that can be any letter in the middle of the table, so theoretically you can make any word that you want, but you are better off if you use letters that are out there, because that gives people clues. You can say how long the word is and how many people it helps, and whether you used the dummy letters or the letter in the middle, because everybody kind of bids their clue. And, if you have a clue that helps the most people and doesn't use the letter that could be anything in the middle, that confuses your clue. Sometimes it's necessary, though. Whoever wins the bid, or whoever we agree on to give the clue, gives their clue out, and you get these tokens. So if I say my clue is four letters long, I get the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and I put those numbers in front of the clues. And then if you get given one of those numbers, you get to write down on your little pad the letters that you can see, and your letter will just be an underscore because you need to work out what that letter is. And then bit by bit, you say that you want to lock in your letters once you're sure of what it could be. You lock it in, and then you flip your next one up. So then you start to get a picture of what your word is going to be, and you need to adjust your clues so that everybody is progressing nicely, not just that one person has found out what all of their letters are, because everybody ideally needs to know what their word is. And so as you go through the game, you start to learn more and more of the letters. You only get a limited number of rounds in it. I believe it's 10 rounds to give you clues and start to work out what your letters are. And then at the end of the game, everybody needs to, with the clues that they've been given through what they think they've locked in of their words, you need to guess what your word is. And if you don't know what your word is, if you just haven't revealed enough letters and things, you can use the wild that's in the middle, and there are ways of getting more cards out there, but you need to form a word, basically, to be able to win the game, and you need to put the right letters in order and reveal them. In our game, I gave some amazing clues, but probably was too keen to give clues, because I should have let other people give some clues so I knew what my word was more. But yeah, I hope that makes sense how I describe it. I think it sounds like it sounds fantastic, because normally word games don't do that well with us. Rachel especially really doesn't like them, like Paperback. I adore, but yeah, just hasn't worked out for the two of us. This one, though, I think has got real potential. I'd be interested to see how it plays with 2 players. I'm not sure if there's any rules tweaks. I'm sure Paul, if he sees this, can comment in the comments if there are any tweaks, but I assume it's just that there will be 4 dummy cards there, and you're encouraged to use those letters in your clues, because each dummy player has a little stack in front of them, and if you can exhaust their entire stack, you get an extra turn, an extra round in the game to give more things. Really, really looking forward to that coming out. I didn't get a chance to play Sanctum, but yeah, seems like board game Diablo, so really want to try that as well at some point, but it'll be out, won't it? We'll get to play it, I'll show it you. Letter Jam. Next up, we went over to PSC, and we didn't get a chance to play it, but David Turtzi talked us through Roam and Roll, which is, as far as I knew going in, this was a roll and write game from David Turtzi and Nick Shaw, who has collaborated with him a lot on the solo variants of things, and on Welcome to Dino World, and on more, I'm sure. But yeah, this is a new big game from them, and all I knew going in was roll and write. It's got rolling and writing in it, but this is a a medium weight euro, maybe medium to heavy euro, where you're working on a common map, and you have separate action boards that are very different. The bonuses that you get are very different from each other, but you are expanding out onto this map and trying to exert your influence and things. The main impression that I got from it, having not played it yet, is that this isn't just, as I thought, it's probably going to be a little bit meatier than a roll and write. No, this is a Euro game that just happens to have that as a mechanism, and it's coming to Kickstarter in September, I believe, and yeah, hopefully be bringing you some kind of playthrough before then. We'll see how it goes, eh? Next, over to Portal Games for a game that we did play now. This was Empires of the North, which is a spin-off, a standalone spin-off of the Imperial Settlers series. It's part of that family, but it's a different game. Now, I haven't played Imperial Settlers. We have played 51st State, the original version, a couple of times, a long time ago. So, yeah, for comparisons, I'm not great. But it's got the same kind of, card engine building. There are different factions in the game, 6 different factions that all have vastly different decks, vastly different priorities in their decks. One main difference we were told is that you get to keep your resources. You can accumulate resources in this rather than them being lost at the end of every turn like in Imperial Settlers. But other than that, I can't really tell you much. So there is the card-playing engine building that is present in those other games. But there is also a little action circle with different options on it, and you have 2 action markers where you can do these things to maybe draw an extra card to harvest from one of your resource cards that are out there, to go shipping, which is can be a big element of the game, to get more resources or get more abilities that you can use round to round. I played as basically the drunks. My people only wanted really to get drunk. I had a special keyword to my cards where I could assign workers. So usually you would spend workers, they go into your spent workers section. At the end of the round, you get all of your workers back. I could assign workers, which could get me more powerful actions, but my workers stayed there forever until I got cards that retrieved them to represent, that a lot of these cards were like breweries and things. So my workers were getting stuff done, but drinking too much and being out for the count. And I needed to play other cards that revived them and got them back to work again. And workers are also used for you draw 4 cards from your deck at the start of your turn, and for every card you want to keep, you need to spend a worker. So that's one fewer worker you've got available to do actions for you in the main round as well. Rachel's deck was all about pillaging, basically, very heavily based into going shipping and just using it to getting a load of resources. Although my deck was tuned a different way, though, I wasn't intentionally trying to steer off course, but I just ended up going shipping as well because I wanted a lot of the benefits. I think I went shipping once just because I happened to have the resources, and then I got a really good ability that was like, you get a coin, which is a wild card resource, every time that you go shipping again. So, okay, I'll go shipping then. And then this little pattern built up, and I ended up being just as good at shipping as well. Now, there is the interaction in the game. There was no fighting between us, even though Rachel's deck, we were told at the start that Rachel wants to fight and all this stuff. It was just geared towards the seafaring stuff. She's attacking these islands and things that we are going to, rather than directly doing it to players. There were cards that were like, when you go shipping, you just put your ship there, and then at the end of the round, after everyone has passed, you get to decide which island you're going to and which card you're going to get the benefit from. There were cards in there that let Rachel just, as soon as you play this card, you get to decide. So if I really wanted something that was clear, you could steal it away from me. And there is the opportunity to spend certain resources to be able to tap people's buildings. So it's not like you can destroy them. You can stop them using them for that, though. We likely never to use that in a game that we play between each other, but I know it's important to some people to have that in there. The action wheel was a really nice little extra as well, because as well as letting you do these variety of actions, you could get apples, and you could spend apples up to twice in the game to flip your action marker over. So if I put it on a certain action, I could flip it to the action on the left or the right and take that action as well in the same round. So it's not just about the one action that you want to do. As long as you've got apples, and hopefully you've sorted out and you've got some apples, you are working out where you want to be in case you want to flip, the order you want to do your two actions in, and where you want to put yourself so that you can make sure that those two actions are as effective as possible for you. Really, really enjoyed this game. It's another one that I definitely can't wait to play the final version of. And maybe we should give base game Imperial Settlers a try. What do you think? Do you know it a lot? Is there a lot of fighting between it? Could we ignore it like in this game? Maybe we should try that out as well. I know that it's got a ton of expansions and things, and that appeals to the, the obsessive collector in me, but would it appeal to the board game player as well? Empires of the North, though, definite thumbs up from both of us. We really enjoyed it. Next up, we went over to Hub Games to play a full game of Megacity Oceania, which is a city building dexterity game. So in the game, we have a bag full of various strange plastic shapes, and there are some clear, there are glass, some represent concrete. There are different colours in there that matters for you get a bonus if you build a building that's all the same materials, and some cards. So you can get these pieces from the bag. There are cards as well that are contracts from the people that are having us build this floating ocean city. And they have requirements like they want it to have this many pieces in it, they want it to be at least this tall, and maybe you can't use glass in this, or you have to make the pieces in such a way that there's a little gap in between two pieces on the ground floor that is a courtyard and things like that, or maybe they want you to stack things in a certain way. And so you're trying to get the pieces that you need to satisfy those contracts. You then need to get tiles that are the right colour for those contracts. And you do have some option, there are 3 you can choose from, and you can flip them over with an action as well. And you are basically, when it's your turn, you can do the actions. You can get contracts, you can get new tiles, you can draw new pieces out of the bag. Everybody else, while it's your turn though, can build. And so this is the dexterity element, you are stacking pieces to try and satisfy all of your conditions and things, and get your nice building in place before it rolls around to your turn, because that's when you need to stop building, unless you are ready to, I can't remember the word, until you're ready to lift off. And then when you are ready to deliver, I think it's deliver, when you're ready to deliver your building, and here's the nice thing, this blue mat suits it. When you are ready to deliver, you take the tile that's got your building stacked up on it, and as if it's, some barge delivering it to this new ocean city, you have to slide it along the table into place without it all falling over. If it does fall over, then you lose your turn and you have to scrabble around to build it up again and hopefully have it ready for next time. Maybe change your design if it's too wobbly. I'll admit that maybe you can see in these pictures as they're going along that I kind of lost sight of the objective of the game and made a separate game where I was just trying to build the highest building. There was a bonus for building the highest building each time, but definitely not a big enough bonus to warrant only doing that the whole game. There were definitely, have a building of each colour, have the most building of a certain colour. I didn't get any of that because, as you can probably see in the pictures, as my few ever taller buildings went out, everyone else was playing the game normally and getting a lot more than me out there and getting a lot more points. But I definitely enjoyed it, even though I probably wasn't playing the game properly. I loved trying to build those massive skyscrapers. But yeah, back in my first building when it was a lot more sensible, I really liked all of these different. There's different things about you can put parks down, and then you'll get extra points for having as many of your buildings as possible next to that park. And as I mentioned, there's the bonuses for having the most things. Once the contracts run out, there are these special mega contracts that come out that are worth even more points, but you can't have a contract on the go when you go to those ones. So you have to have built efficiently to get rid of all of those things. And the most fun really is trying to stack these. I mentioned that the pieces are shaped weirdly because, they don't really lend themselves to stacking that easily, so you have to come up with creative ways of getting them to be stable enough to be delivered across the table. But yeah, that is coming out later this year as well, and definitely I'm not so great at dexterity things, usually very shaky hands. But yeah, I managed to get some really, really tall things in there, much taller than the ruler. Hopefully, they need to they need to add this part as an expansion. Just build really tall things, put a massive ruler in it. My buildings are all bigger than the ruler. What's going on there? Maybe that's because that's not the point of the game. That's Megacity Oceania. Next, we went over to Dranda Games and we played Solar Storm, which is a great, fast little co-op game where we are basically trying to reroute energy to our spaceship that's lost power. We have a grid of 9 cards that represent different rooms. The one in the middle is the room that wants the power at the very end of it. And based on cards that are going to come out every round and damage parts of the ship, each room has 3 cubes in it, and every time that room's name comes up on a card, you remove a cube from it. And we are trying to collect the right cards, basically. The cards are going to come out from the resource deck to repair the rooms, because, if they take too much damage, we're going to lose the game. To repair the rooms, you need to use the right cards that it says in the spaces where the cubes used to be. And eventually, you need to go to a fully repaired room and spend the right cards to get the energy from that room. You need to go to every room, all of the 8 rooms that aren't the central one, get their energy, so they need to be fully repaired. I was going to say it right the first time. Fully repaired, and then spend the right resource cards to get the energy into the middle. And then once you've got all 8, you go into the middle, spend an action, and you have won. But yeah, constantly, every turn, you're drawing these cards that damage the rooms and prevent you from being able to achieve that goal easily, because you need to, even if you're in the room and it's fully repaired, then a card comes out and damages it once, and you need to suddenly get a load of different resources again to be able to fully repair it. Or suddenly in a different corner of the ship, a room is really in danger now, it's got no cubes on it, and the next hit's going to make you lose the game, so you have to suddenly refocus. And each of the buildings has a special power as well, like being able to teleport you somewhere, or being able to trade cards with each other, or draw extra cards and things. And those rooms need to be fully repaired for you to be able to use those powers as well. And that is another one that is coming to Kickstarter later in the year, and really enjoyed it. We were really going through it very well. It looked like we were surely going to win it. We were going in really strong. I had kind of a perfect hand of cards at the start of the game to repair and get the energy out of the first room that I went to. So it was a great start to it, but unfortunately I think we were 1 or 2 rooms off winning, and yeah, we just we were juggling too many plates and we dropped them. But yeah, that's coming to Kickstarter later this year. Another one to look out for, I think. Then, we didn't play these at the Expo, but they were at the Expo, and I think it's worth mentioning. We played a load of board and dice games a few weeks before the Expo. Invited to, it's quite near the NEC actually, and we played a load of the upcoming games. And so we played a full game of Teotihuacan with the new expansion, the late pre-classic period. And this adds a load of new modules to the game. So it adds a new temple where, as you are progressing up it, certain stages, rather than just getting you a discovery tile and you can choose some bonus from there, it will get you a power for the rest of the game that can, if you really devote yourself to that temple, you can really change up the way that you are playing and get special bonuses for, say, constructing or for leveling up your dice faster and things like that. There is a new seasons part to the game where every round you will draw a new card, and well, after every eclipse, I believe, you draw a new card, and that's going to affect the rules of the game. Like one that came up in our game was that instead of being able to move your workers 1 to 3 spaces, you now could only move them 2 to 4 spaces. So great if you want to reach a bit further. Bad if you wanted to go really quickly. Really liked the variety of that element, but it would be nice if you could see a season in advance, because that one in particular really messed a couple of us up that had kind of spent turns really planning things ahead and getting all of our workers up, and then after the eclipse, none of that applies anymore. We solved it. Maybe we'd house rule that so you can see the one in advance so that you don't get yourself in a mess. But yeah, another nice extra. And then the other 2 parts of it relate to building the decorations, the steps up the temple, and building the temple itself. Instead of them being different to the resource gathering spaces, and the number of workers there determines how many tiles you get to build. Now They are both grids, like the resource gathering spaces. So not only does the number of dice matter that you send to the action space, the value of those dice matters as well for a huge combination, 9 different combinations of results that you will end up with for taking those actions now. We played World Shapers, which actually used to be called, is it Elements? We played it at Essen a couple of years ago. When Rachel actually could get there with me. And now it's called World Shapers and has been tweaked and made more beautiful and things. This is a card drafting game where we are building columns of different colours of card basically, and you are it's a nice tight game where you are trying to score the most for things. So I will get a card that I'll get so many points if I have the most wind, and I will get the most points if I have the most full rows of cards. So I want a variety of colours to achieve that. And you can also end up earning these crystals that you can put on cards to make them worth more points as well. It's one that's going to come across much better when I get a chance to do a playthrough of it rather than just describe it. But yeah, that's a nice filler game to look out for. There is Inuit. And here it's a tableau building game where you are drafting not just workers, you're taking cards from a central display, and you can take people as workers that will enable you to take more cards, because you can only take a certain category of card when it's your turn. But if I want to take weapons, for example, I could spend a few turns taking people as workers to put underneath the weapons section, and then when I do come to take weapons, I can take a load in one big action, and the same for hunting certain types of animals and things like that. It's we really enjoyed that one. I can't speak for Rachel; she's not here, but yeah, that one really stood out as a really nice. It's definitely on the lighter side as well, easy to pick up, but a really nice tableau building game that encourages these kind of... It's building a little engine as well, so you get really powerful at one thing, but then what about when the display changes and there's none of that thing to hunt anymore? If you've really gone into hunting polar bears and now they're all gone and now you need to switch things, but there are cards that let you do that, of course. And the last one we played was Sierra West, which is another one that's kind of... It doesn't really come across from the description of it. There are several different modules that you can play. The one that we played was apples. We are trying to gather apples in this game. You have a hill made out of cards that is basically going to, when you take the top card from the hill, the 2 underneath it will reveal, and it will, cascade down like that over the course of the game. We'll start out with our individual player decks, and we have player boards that have various slots in them. You draw 3 cards on your turn, and it's up to you the order in which you play these cards into your player board, because depending on the configuration of them, the slots in them will reveal certain action spaces. And you have 2 rows of workers that do different things, and they will basically walk along the action path that you have defined by the cards that you have put out there. So whether it's gather apples, get new cards, get new buildings, because you can use your workers beforehand on these buildings. So the first worker might boost the second worker, so you'll start out the round with them on this building that boosts your other worker, and then but they have to stay there to make sure that effect happens, that thing stays in effect. So your other worker has to happen first, and now they're done with, you can bring the first worker up and move them along. I don't feel like I can explain this properly but yeah, there will be a playthrough coming, hopefully. But yeah, it's a really nice game of planning and timing and trying to wrangle these cards into something really beneficial for you, because some cards have penalty action spaces on where you're going to have to pay money to get across them, but it's required for you to get maybe there's a better action on the top row, or there's a better action after that you need to get to. It's a really just in the one module that we played, it's such a fantastic game. Yeah, take that with a pinch of salt. It's one game of it, but another element that's really exciting to us is that it's got a number of different modules that we were briefly shown. And so yeah, I'm excited about both the variety that's going to be in the final box with these different modules, and the possibilities that presents if it's a game system that really lends itself to these different things happening. Loads of different designers and loads of different expansions could presumably come out, so long as it's really good. And another thing, we got this mystery box that is, it might be really exciting to you. Can you tell what it is? Well, inside, we've got a nice little surprise that's, maybe you've seen the announcement already through social media and stuff. This is Yido, which I have to admit I've never played myself. It is a game that has been long out of print that is now coming back into your hands, hopefully, from the folks at Board and Dice, and it's now going to come with, I think of how they've taken Snowdonia. They haven't added massive things to Snowdonia, but they've collected everything together in Snowdonia in the master set. And once that's available, you're going to be able to get a load of things that were hard to get your hands on and have it all in one place with one nice unifying box, one unifying style. And Yido is having a load of extra modules added to it. The only thing I kind of saw as I glanced at Yido in the past is that it's a game that's going to be too mean for us. I'll dismiss that. But apparently, through the mixing and matching of these modules, that's not an issue in this new version. And if you don't want the, take that or the negative interaction or however it comes across in the game, you can just play with a module that doesn't include that. And so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, based on these things that we've seen so far, I'm really excited to find out more about it. But I'd like it to be a surprise. If all games could be, announced in this kind of way, then yeah, it would be, maybe I'd be excited about every game. But yeah, who knows? As I said, I haven't played Yido, so maybe it's it's your favourite game, but you just haven't been able to get a copy of it. Now it's going to be coming back into print. So I think that is everything to talk about. Oh no, it's not everything to talk about, because there is Gaming Rules Live for the second time in a row, and I think unfortunately the last time. Paul Grogan and I did a podcast. It's just the two of us this time with a load of guests that came up to talk about their YouTube channels or the games they had out or the board game book. And yeah, that was it was a fantastic show. I think it was even better than the first one. I certainly said more than I did in the first one. But that was filmed, or at least the audio was recorded. There was a camera with the video as well. Who knows how things work out? There are technical difficulties and things. I presume, though, that will be coming to your way in the near future, though. And yeah, I'll look out for me on Twitter or something, and I will let you know when that's available for you to watch. Because yeah, it was you had to be at the Expo, and you had to be at the Expo on Saturday and late at night on Saturday to see it. So yeah, hopefully a lot of people will get to see it after the fact. Yeah, so for us, it was another really great time. I'll say it's a bit of a shame after having stayed there last year. It's so expensive to stay there, so we just drove up again, which yeah, it takes a lot more time, and it's not as fun to be driving back and forth. And we couldn't go for the full 3 days this time, which is a bit unfortunate, because I would rather skip Saturday, I think, and just go on Friday and Sunday. Much calmer days, although yeah, Friday was busier than it has been in previous years because the Expo is growing and more people are going to it. But I think Saturday, yeah, it's like Essen levels of crowding. You can't get around. There's no chance of getting a demo of something unless you're willing to wait there for ages and ages and ages. And yeah, maybe you really love that about conventions and things. But for us, yeah, definitely not into that level of crowdage. And yeah, I think next year we look forward to go on the quiet days. Maybe we'll get to stay there again, though. Who knows? I don't think so, though. The prices just keep escalating and escalating as the hotel owners presumably just see dollar signs in their eyes. But hey, that's the way things work, isn't it? Let's end this on a high note, though. Things are great, aren't they? Games are coming out. They sound fun. The ones we played were fun. Hopefully you'll find them fun too. But yeah, rather than me just describing things to you, I will hopefully, at some point, have playthroughs of all of these things so you can get a much better idea of things. That was the UK Games Expo, though. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you for future things. Bye!